public comments. That
So
we started.
I mean, I've only happened once, but
That's true. Yeah.
stop that.
Well, I will call to order the regular meeting of the Cass County Public Library Board of Trustees, April 16th, 2025 meeting. Let's do our roll call.
Sherry Peters,
Becky Pine.
That's right.
Diana Larson.
And Tanya Long. We'll stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the updated agenda. You gotta do the appropriate wording because the one that was sent to us. Yeah, the revised agenda that we have that includes real estate in our closed session.
And I make that motion.
To approve. All those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Were there any thoughts, questions, anything to do with respect to the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as we received.
So,
All those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, moving along. Public comments. We do not have any this evening. We're going to move on to our unfinished business. Under unfinished business, actually, in our agenda, the way we're going to operate it tonight is we're going to hear from Stiefel about the financial bond financing, and then we're going to move directly down to under new business action item adoption of resolution of intent, which we all received a copy of. So these guys can kind of go in tandem, and then they can scoot on out, and we can finish the rest of our evening's business.
thank you.
So. Take it away, Michael.
Okay. Normally my colleague Connor is here with me, but he is on vacation this week. So we occasionally unchain him and let him go. And it's been a hard week. I haven't really enjoyed it. But at any rate, he's having a good time. So he sends his regrets. I'm here this evening with colleague and friend Rick McConnell. He'll talk a little bit more later about doing legal work for the district. And my point in being here this evening is to walk over a financing schedule with you, since some decisions have been made by the board about a direction that you want to move. We put together a financing timeline, fine-tuned it a little bit from the last time we were together and talked. And I just want to walk through it a little bit with you. Each of you should have a copy of it in your packet. We put this together to keep everybody on the same page when we do projects like this. So everybody's got deadlines. It's good to know what you're targeting. Will this be fluid? It absolutely will be fluid. Things will not always go according to this schedule when you're working with different folks involved, rating agencies, etc. But, this gives us an outline. So, what we're going to do tonight, the first item that Rick will talk about in a little bit, is a resolution of intent for the financing, and he'll explain the IRS implications of that and why we like to have jurisdictions do that. It's in your best interest, and so he'll talk about that, and then it'll be about 3-4 weeks or so before really we'll do any document drafting, and that's largely a heavy lift by the lawyers, but that's so that we start getting our documents out. We've done these library district deals before with this type of structure, so we're not reinventing the wheel. So this is something we're very familiar on how to do, and we'll have a period of comments, and then by the first part of June, I will package together information about the district that will go to a national credit rating agency, most likely Moody's Investor Services. I had them rate couple library districts here in Missouri recently for us, so they're very familiar with the structure of the taxing support for Missouri library districts. They also are quick to respond with questions and answers, and they're good to work with. So I find them to be the entity that in this particular circumstance I'd recommend that we use for getting a credit rating for the library district, which you have not had before. So we will take the bond documents that have already been assembled, the drafts, which they're used to seeing. I've already accumulated all of the financial records with Lori's help. Thank you very much. And so we will have all of those audits and other unaudited financial records. I hope that we may even have a preliminary 2024 audit, but we might not, and that's okay because the district's financials, frankly, look so good that this would not be one where they would question or be concerned about not having that. And so, what we typically do is provide unaudited year-end financials for the most current year if we don't have the audit. And so, we get that to them, and then what they do is they put together a list of questions that they send to us, and we in turn take a stab at providing some answers to those, and then we get them to staff and ask the staff to provide answers to these questions from the rating agency, which sometimes, well, oftentimes will focus on economic development within the district related directly to the tax base. They focus on finances and tax base. There'll be a lot of questions about management of the district. Some of you have been here for a while know that we went through a process of adopting financial management policies for the district, and that's where this now becomes important because they will want to see those, know that they're in place, and the fact that they've been adopted for a while and not just yesterday in front of the rating call makes a difference because it's not as if we're just reacting to something we've now decided to do. You've had these in place for a while, a couple of years actually now. I think it was about this time 2 years ago, maybe longer, that we adopted those. I think it was longer. I think it might have been in Jan. Yeah, I think it might have been. Anyway, so and that's good because we wanted to have those in place. And so then at some point we will get a credit rating from them. And some of the information that we've gone over before, I've shown you how the credit rating charts look, with the triple A's down all the way into the B's, and my prediction is you'll end up someplace in the A's, maybe a single A, maybe a double A, a low double A. I don't know. We'll see. The district looks really good on paper, and I'm not the one deciding it, but that's what will happen. And then we'll go through a request for proposals from bond underwriting firms, the firms that will actually sell the bonds. Now, my firm does that, but we're serving as financial advisor to the district, so we're not going to sell your bonds because that's not allowed under the regulations that govern us. So made a decision a long time ago to be your financial advisor, so that's what we're going to do. But because my firm is a bond underwriter, I feel pretty confident we know the questions to ask, and we do this regularly in sending out these RFPs and know what's important when they respond and what we're looking for from them, and also know if they're giving us the straight up on rates or if we need to question them a little bit on rates, because I have an underwriting desk that underwrites millions of bonds every week, so we're very in tune to the market. So we'll go through that process, and then we'll come back and recommend to you the selection of a bond underwriter. And from that point, it's all pretty behind the scenes as far as you're concerned, because our job is to work with them and make sure that the bond sale is executed in the best interest of the district. And that's what we will do. So we'll move on through this then. And at some point, as I've noted on the calendar, you have a real estate issue that you're discussing, and there will be a closing on some real estate. We can't actually offer these bonds until that has occurred because that becomes part of the collateral, if you will, what is pledged, the lease collateral in a transaction like this. So we need to know that you have that. And the bond lawyers will want that, and the investors will want that. And then if all goes according to this schedule, in late August, we'll be back here to ask you to adopt a bond resolution and authorize the sale of the bonds. That may very well slip into September. It could slip into October, and it's fine if it does. That should not be of any concern. Right now, the credit rating analysts, both internally and externally, are still predicting 2, maybe 3 rate cuts by the feds before the end of the year. I'm not convinced it'll be 3, but almost everyone is thinking 2. So that's in your best interest as well. The Federal Open Market Committee meets every month and has the option of cutting rates every month. They haven't done it here lately, but they did earlier in the year. And the consensus still is that they'll do it. Pretty good consensus that they'll do it by July and maybe again by the fall. So if we think that's coming, honestly, depending on what rates we see, we might recommend holding this deal until September or October. So that's where we interplay with the underwriters a lot and decide what might be the best time to jump in the market, but you want to get the deal ready. And that's why we have calendars like this. We want all the documents done. We want the rating done. We want everything ready. So if we say, Cass County, we want to put this deal on the calendar 2 weeks from Tuesday, we're ready to do it. Okay? And at some point we close the thing. and money goes to a trustee on your behalf for use for projects that are identified in the bond documents. That is a quick run through of what a schedule looks like, and I'm happy to answer questions. I do want to emphasize it is highly likely that this will change a little bit, okay? This is not the Bible, okay, right here. It'll change. Can I answer any questions for you?
What's the typical time frame when you are looking, you've sent the stuff off to your credit rating
Mhm.
and you answers back and forth, questions, this and that. What's the typical time frame?
Couple weeks.
Couple weeks. Okay.
I mean, so I think I put in here that I'm going to send the stuff off on June the 3rd. The week of the 16th is when I would anticipate we would have a call with Moody's,
Yep.
and by then we will have already provided them with written answers to the questions. My typical practice is to provide them written answers to the questions 2 days before the call,
Okay.
because it really facilitates the call. A lot of times the analysts, I mean, these people do this all the time, so they will look at these answers and their questions really then are focused in the call only on what was not maybe clear or a follow-up, and it really facilitates the call.
Gotcha.
We'll have a little training session too with staff, and Tanya, probably you. The chair is often asked to be on the rating call,
Okay.
and we'll have a little training session about what the questions are likely to be. And during that call, they really want to hear from the district. They really don't want to hear from me. And I'll only hop in if I see something going off the rails, or if there's a piece of information that I think, oh, you know what? We didn't get that to you with clarity. Let us follow up. In fact, don't be surprised if you hear me say that, because I often like the chance to follow up with a rating agency by either providing something or clarifying something I heard in the call that I want to make a little point on. So I will frequently do that. In fact, I've never had a call where I haven't promised some follow up so that we can have an opportunity to re-engage them in a conversation. And then during the call, they'll set a time, usually a week later, where they'll say, we will send you the draft rating report to look at. And it's their opinion, so we don't get to change you. We do get to point out factual errors or the inadvertent disclosure of confidential information, which really never happens. But that's all we get to do. And otherwise, they'll give you about a 2-hour window to look at it, and then they're going to publish it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's their opinion. We've asked them for it. You'll pay them for it. And so we don't get to change it, you know. So, but I have no worries about this district in the rating process.
When the bonds are ready for people to purchase,
Mhm.
I've had a couple of people in the area that would like to invest.
Yep.
They buy school bonds, they'd like
Yep.
to buy library bonds. Will that be publicized
Yes.
of who they can contact to get them?
It sure will.
Okay.
We will have, what we'll do is, Steve will, of course, has a whole network of brokers that sell to individuals. I'm not talking about the bond salespeople. I'm talking about private wealth advisors. That goes into our network. They can do that. We will also advertise this with all of the others, Edward Jones,
Okay.
whoever it may be, who brokers these bonds for people. When we set a sale date, we'll work with the underwriter to establish what we call a retail order period. That means individuals buy, and they'll get maybe the first 30 minutes to put in orders. And we'll have a priority of order designation period where it says we're going to give priority to retail buyers. And the only exception to that, Becky, is if we have institutional orders from institutions that beat those retail orders, we're not going to recommend to you that you sell to Mom and Pa Smith at a rate that's 50 basis points higher than the retail buyer will buy, than the institutional investor will buy it for. So we're not going to give priority to an individual if there's a better, lower price coming from an institutional buyer. Now, that doesn't usually happen, frankly, unless you're really oversubscribed, meaning that in one of the maturities, you've got 5 times more orders than you do bonds. And so then we go back and say, okay, 5 people who are interested, we're going to lower the rate here. Are you still with us? Do you stick? And a lot of the retail buyers will not stick, but the institutional buyers will stick. And so then that'll happen. But if it's one on, even on, and let's say we've offered in the 2028 maturity an interest rate of, I'll say 3.5%. And there's some retail orders and there's some institutional orders, and they're all at 3.5%. The retail order is going to get priority
Okay.
because it's the same rate.
Okay.
We will work to get bonds to local residents that want to buy them at the competitive rate.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I said the underwriter will do that. We're not selling the bonds. Gotta correct myself. Yes, ma'am.
So I am not very familiar with certificates of participation. Can you give me a quick little lesson on that vehicle?
I'm letting him
Or
do
can
that.
Rick do that?
He will do that because it was a construct of lawyers years
Yes,
ago.
I love talking about certificates of participation.
Good segue.
And it's a great
Yeah.
question because as we talk about bonds, and I mean, technically, lawyer talk, these aren't bonds, but they are a financial instrument that people buy to basically invest in the district. But what they're really buying, we're going to structure this as what's called a lease purchase transaction or lease back, which is a pretty common structure. As Michael said, we've done it with library districts, we've done it with cities, we've done it with counties for their jails and courthouses, and I said very common, and the market is very accepting of it. But what really happens is we will buy a piece of ground, which we think we'll do in the summer. We will lease that to a bond trustee bank for a lengthy period of time. Uh, are we thinking 20 years on our term?
I think, isn't that what we ultimately decided, Robin? Mine would, that's open.
Yeah, okay.
2025.
So what we tend to do, so we might lease the land for maybe 40 years to this trustee bank. They will lease it back to us for the term of the financing, say 20 years or whatever it turns out to be.
I think it's going to be 25.
Okay, for 25. So we might do 50. Yeah, it's just sort of whatever the investors are looking for. Because what happens is we can use the facility as long as we make our financing payments. If we default, they get to come in and use the facility for the remaining time of that first lease. And that's really, it's to give them time to recover their investment. In theory, they could lease it out to the county or the sheriff's department, or I mean, somebody like that who would want to pay rent for the facility, and that would be used to make them whole. Now, the reason these really work is that never happens. The payments are always made, and once the end of the financing term hits, the 20 or 25 year, then that first lease goes away. So it's not like you've lost it forever. It's just to provide that security that these investors are looking for. So what you're doing really is making a lease payment. And when you talk about certificating something, it means you're dividing it up. So all these investors get a little piece of that lease payment, and that's what they get paid back. And so it's just fancy law talk, and basically it's very much like bonds that people get principal and interest back on. The terminology is just different because of that lease structure. So that's what it is, and it's a great question, and somebody in every meeting should ask that question because nobody knows what they are, and because you just don't deal with it every day. But that's what it is, and it's a structure that has evolved because you don't want to use your general obligation bond authority because that would mean raising taxes even further. Well, we don't need to do that. So we'll use this structure and we'll save that GO authority for when we need it, if we ever do. So that's why we're doing it.
So we're retaining ownership of the property and of the building.
Uh-huh.
We're not mortgaging it. We're
No.
leasing it. Okay.
No. I guess it's somewhat akin to a mortgage for a term of years, I guess, if you think of it that way, but it's truly a lease, and it is designed to collapse when the financing's paid off, and so you get the facility back free and clear.
That's so interesting. Thanks for asking that
Makes
question.
sense?
Well, as reading through it, talking
'Cause
about,
I'm like,
they talk about the three different, because I read the financial management
Thank
policy.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Just yesterday.
Yep.
I talked about the three different types of bonds we could do, and I'm like,
Yes.
okay, familiar with A and B, C, certificate of
Not so much.
participation, I.
And that's
Right.
what you're going to do.
Now, so if, and I don't think this will happen here, but you might end up with one investor who wants to buy the whole thing, but this is a pretty big issue, so that's probably not going to happen. But if that happened, we would just do a lease back.
Mm-hmm.
We would not do the certificates because we just have one investor and they get all the lease payments. That structure is used sometimes too in different types of markets. We've done them both ways, but I don't know that this one's pretty big, so I don't think that'll happen. But it could. Never say never.
Yeah, it could. I mean, and we'll put that in our RFP to the underwriters to see if they want to propose that they have one buyer that might want to buy the entire offering. What county was it where we did that? Was it Lawrence County? Um, and that happened, and that was that ultimately that was the structure. We collapsed out the COP structure and
Right.
just went with a direct lease.
Is
And
there
we've
any
done this.
advantage or disadvantage to one or the other?
It's all rate driven.
It's all rate driven.
Yeah, and I mean, the advantage at some level is you've got one owner that you're dealing with. The flip side, though, is you'll have a trustee bank who's going to be very easy to deal with because this is their business and
They're
they're
like
used
the
to
middleman.
dealing.
They're the
Exactly.
That was not actually the easiest structure to work with in that particular situation,
Yeah.
but that was more
That was the lawyer's fault.
not him, not him, but that was painful.
It was painful, but
Yeah.
usually it is not.
No, it's not.
It-
We just did the Rolling Hills Library District financing this exact same way.
Mhm.
Theirs was about, was it 10,
I
10,
think something.
10 million?
Yeah.
Exact same structure.
And and then also the Berry County
Oh, yeah, we did. Their law enforcement service did the same way too.
right after Lawrence, or maybe right before, but very
Yeah.
similar sort of neighboring counties, but they just went a different way based on the interest rate and the proposals that came in. So that's why, as he said, with the schedule, with the structure, the whole goal is just to get you guys the best deal.
Right.
Period. So that's what we do. So in front of you tonight is what's called a resolution of intent. And it's pretty much just what it says. It's announcing the district's intention of borrowing money, but it is not a commitment to borrow money. This does not lock you into doing anything, but it does preserve options for you. And Michael said it's driven in part by the Internal Revenue Code. Our financings, the interest is exempt from income tax. That's why we get to borrow a little bit cheaper. Um, and so, as you might expect, the IRS doesn't prefer that. So they put lots of requirements on us. The one that this addresses is the issue of reimbursement from the proceeds of the financing. And you can go back 60 days from the resolution of intent for, I'll just call it, say, hard costs, which could be construction, land acquisition, those types of things. Now, for soft costs like design, you can go back further, but we like to get, as Michael said, we like to get this in place as early as we can, just in case there might be some cost that is hanging out back there that we might end up wanting to reimburse for some reason. I would say that a lot of times the folks have a balance sheet like yours, we don't end up doing that, but it still preserves some good options for you. Again, does not require you to do anything. We gave an estimate of the amount of the financing. Um, if it can be lower or higher, it's just a good faith estimate at this point. It's just the best we've got. But in any event, it sort of gets you on record for the IRS, and then if you decide next week, no, we're not going to borrow a penny, you don't have to. So that's what it does.
Just kind of dotting an I that if
It-
this is the road we want to go,
It's
need to dot it now.
Yeah, the earlier the better.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've got some concrete plans, you've got some cost estimates, so now's the time. If you do it too early, then you miss the mark usually by more than you would prefer. But now it's, we've got a public, sort of action that we've taken that says, yeah, we're going to go forward with this if it all works out. And so I think then sort of moving through the calendar, there will be a lot of documents, and you will not like me by the end of this process because we'll put a lot of documents in front of you to read. The leases that we talked about, there'll be an offering document called an official statement that will describe the district and the lease structure and the terms of the certificates and all that. And that's what the investors will have. And so that has to be correct, and so we'll work hard to make sure that that happens. We'll get a lot of information from the county, I'm sure, in terms of your assessed value and tax collection record and those types of things to the extent you may not have it. But they're used to it. They love getting those phone calls, you know. Oh, another bond lawyer calling. It's a pretty smooth process. I think we've all done it enough to know where the hurdles are, and I think that the rating is very significant. Michael's done that a million times and has a great relationship with those folks. So, uh, bottom line, these are fun deals for us because this is a positive improvement, and it's exciting to see what happens. And I guess the third and fourth library we've done, so anyway, looking forward to it and working with y'all. And happy to answer any questions.
Well, I wrote the resolution.
Okay.
Item 3,
Mhm.
is people is underwriting.
Yeah, so I need to change that.
Oh.
I didn't realize till tonight that he was the financial advisor.
Oh, yeah, that's not us.
That's what led me to
No.
read the financial policy.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
okay,
we're not the
that's probably
underwriter.
a
Oh, no, that's
conflict
gonna
of
have to be
interest. We can't
changed.
do that.
That's what
Oh,
we
no.
did on rolling bills. So,
Okay.
So that was my error. So
Yeah, we're not the underwriter.
So
We're
we
not.
do a motion, we will make sure we
Yeah, we'll
amend
check
that.
that.
in
Yeah.
the
That
resolution.
would be much appreciated.
Yeah.
So how should that be
Yeah, I was gonna
worded?
say,
By
Financial
regulatory.
advisor, I would say.
It just say financial, just take underwriter out, put financial advisor.
Okay.
Because we don't know who the underwriter is yet.
No, we don't.
So,
Yeah.
sorry about that. I know.
So Michael, when I read it, I'm like, wow, Michael
No.
can't do
Yeah,
that.
we
No.
can't do that.
You used to be able to do it.
I used to
Can't
be able to do
anymore.
that.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore.
So it should read, the Board of Trustees authorizes the district to retain Stiefel, Nicholas and Company Incorporated as financial advisor and Kutak
Yep.
Rock LLP as special counsel related to the issuance of obligations for the project.
You know, actually, now that I'm thinking about this, you guys have already hired us by contract.
Yeah.
You don't even really need that in there. It can be stricken altogether.
Oh, you can take it out. Yeah.
Just take it out because they've already hired us back whenever. Yeah, so I mean, you could
So
actually
it'd be
just
more
strike
like
it.
board authorizes the district to retain Kutak Rock
Don't you
LLC
think?
as
Yeah.
special
Just
counsel.
don't need it. No, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't like
No, it's all right.
Because that is true. I mean,
Yeah, we're already
you're
hired.
already there.
Yeah,
You're already in.
we're already in. I got a copy of the contract right here in a little folder somewhere. So,
Okay, so the Board of Trustees authorizes the district to retain Kutak Rock LLP as special counsel related to the issuance of obligations for the project.
Mhm.
That's how we want it. That's our amended part to this resolution. Without Stiefel.
So, Robin, I'll get a revised version to you.
I can actually revise
You
it.
want to just do it? Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
And then I'll need to sign the revised one.
Yeah.
So, okay, are there any other questions? Anything? If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt this resolution as it has been revised.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh, absolutely.
Because the financial policy was just full of information.
well, that was the intent, Sharon. I'm glad you read it. I
No, we've got a reader.
we got a reader in this group.
That's right.
That's good.
Sorry.
That's good.
It talked about before we can issue bonds that we have to actively seek grants or low interest state loans before entering the capital market.
If they're available, and that is a preference in your policy for you to do that. And so during the next few months, if there are grants that might be, there's no low interest state loan that a library district qualifies for. If you were a city working on a sewer water project, you could go through the DNR for some kind of low interest backed state loan, but that's not an option for the district really. Now, there might be, I don't know, maybe there is something that libraries have access to that I'm not aware of. But
It just got taken away.
I
Shut down the
don't
IML.
think so.
Because I just wanted to make sure we were following that
You're-
step.
you're- you're
And
fo-
then
you're-
how
you're-
are we
I-
follow-
yeah.
How are we following that
Yeah,
step?
I
Make
think-
sure we.
I think
I think your staff, I'm sure, keeps on top of that. And I think it's a good policy. It's a good general policy because you never want to borrow what you can take for free.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's what that's saying. And the ARPA money that was available for a period of years, that was
Yeah.
always a big deal. Of course, it's hard to get that, but all we're saying is that we try.
Yeah,
And-
if there's some other money, you'll put it in there too.
Yeah.
And you are putting cash in. I mean, that's already been
Yeah.
discussed, and the exact commitment of that we haven't settled on yet,
Right.
but you're putting cash in, which is, I think, also mentioned in the policy.
is.
There's a preference for using cash to the extent that it's available.
We're required to use all non-debt sources first.
Yes.
Did this say required or,
Yes,
okay.
that's what I
I
put
couldn't
down.
remember how that was worded.
I think you've also got probably a reserve policy and turning and all that.
Fund
So,
balance reserve
yeah,
policy that
it all
they
works together.
easily meet.
It doesn't, so I'm just saying, it doesn't mean you have to spend it down to the nut.
No.
or-
No, yeah, that would be prudent.
That would,
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I move, after all of
Okay.
that,
Yeah,
I will move
Excellent
that we
questions.
adopt the resolution number 041625 as amended to approve Kutak Rock as our special counsel for the certificates of participation project.
I second it.
I'm going to take a roll call vote for this adoption of the resolution 041625 as amended. Sherry,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes.
Diana.
Yes.
Tanya, yes. All right. There we go.
All right. Well, we look forward to working with you on this project and
Absolutely.
getting something accomplished for the district.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Rick.
Nice to meet you all as well.
Thank you for moving
Michael
this
has to
up.
be at choir practice.
I do.
Now he can
I just want to go home.
practice.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. See you next time.
Yeah. Moving on, now we're moving down to we're going on to new business discussion items, strategic planning. And look through you, Robin.
Well, really, I'll just put in your packet some ideas that I had. Your writer last year gave this final report. One of his recommendations was that we kind of revisit the strategic plan based on the new information or the updated information that we had in the work we were doing to plan the capital improvement plan. And so what I had suggested was making things a little bit more specific on around programming in goal 3, based on the feedback that we had gotten, and some ideas for how we might measure those things. Goal 4, really, actually, now we have a lot more specific ideas, and we're already embarking on a lot of things even this year, making that more specific about what we're doing at facilities. And then on goal 5, since we're revamping kind of our approach to outreach, getting a little bit more specific in there about what we're doing and some suggestions that were given to us in the assessment. So I was just wanted, didn't want to actually go ahead and make a draft yet. I just wanted to put that in front of you to see what thoughts you have.
I don't have any problem with any of the changes, and I think, especially on goal 3, we need to do more of that type of programming, not just book clubs and things like that, but, you know, we've already used Cass Health Department for a few presentations and keep going along with that. Yeah, and goal 4, just be more specific about what our goals are for now until 2026.
Yeah. And the other thing I don't like is under the goal 3 suggested update workforce readiness and career development. I didn't like workforce readiness. Makes me think of robots. I like career development, but I was like, ugh. It makes me think robots, and we're just gonna go do what we trained to do.
I see what you're saying.
That's just a
Career
personal.
development is nice,
I
right?
do like career development. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was, it encompasses the things that came about from those meetings, and I look forward to seeing kind of, as you refine some goals within that and how, what those will look like.
I have a question on goal 5. Partnership with schools for student library cards, and I hate to bring this up. Does the parent have to be with the child to get a library card?
The way that we have it now,
Yes.
yes. But I would like to investigate what options there might be for doing, maybe whether it's online only access.
Okay.
We've had schools right back, more than once actually, has come and said, is there a way that we can do this? I think what they want is for the students to be able to access some of the online databases that we have in class, like as part of instruction. And you can't put everybody on one person's library.
Right.
You know, everyone would have to have an individual number. So we're looking into, there's also the fact that we're an evergreen library. We don't use our own proprietary iOS system. How does that look? So Rhonda actually is looking into other libraries in Evergreen that might be doing that and how are they doing it, and what does that look like. So we're kind of looking at that, and once we kind of get a feel for what maybe some options are, we thought we might sit down with Rayback and ask them what it is they really want and see if any of that matches. So I don't know. I put that on there not knowing if we could do it.
I
but
don't want to
thought it'd
stir
be
up a
nice.
hornet's nest.
Well, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think there's got to be some way when, I mean, if the school is looking for the kids to have access to more ways to research and do different things, that maybe it's on their side, they develop the consent in some way that then is inclusive to,
Or an
yeah,
opt-out at the beginning of the school
Yeah.
year.
yeah.
I've thought about like automatic expiration at the end of the school year, so every year it would it wouldn't just be a long-standing account. It would
Yeah.
only be for the duration of the school year. So lots of ways to play with it. I know other library systems have done it outside of Evergreen, but I'm looking at what we can do with it.
Okay. That's cool. That's a good question, Becky. Anything else on that, guys? Okay. We'll move on to the capital improvement plan draft.
So this one's kind of the same thing, except it is a draft. It's already outlined for you. About I scoped it for 5 years because I do think just starting out with all these projects now, it'll give us a good time to kind of see how all of it actually shakes out. Both in like the ability to get it done, like actually physically get it done, and also financially get it done.
Yeah.
And then we can regroup again in a few years and look farther beyond. So these are ideas that I had. Of course, some of this stuff, like I said, we're doing it now, so it's just kind of
Right.
making it official.
Yeah, making it official.
Michael had indicated to me that this is part of that rating process and bond issuance process. It gives us, it shows that we have intent
Yeah.
for our finances and plans and things. So I just wanted to get, and some of this stuff I'm still tinkering with, and there's some places there's not numbers and things like that, but just wanted to get your feedback, because you know just about as much as I do now, all the stuff that we've done with the planning and the information that we've gathered, and we've been around and seen the facilities. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Well, I'm glad to see the part about Garden City because we haven't talked about that too much since we
Yeah.
were down there.
Right.
Do we have more room?
I'm talking to Shannon right now. We're looking at what kind of options that we might have, and he's excited
Oh, good.
about the possibility of doing that. So.
Take this whole building.
We'll give them a little piece on
A little corner.
Yeah, yeah,
In the back.
Good. What is an electric strike lock system?
It's like key carding.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's like, okay.
Do we have that anywhere?
Virtue has
Yeah.
one on their back door.
Does Pleasant Hill have a key card system?
That's
Really?
for Pleasant Hill.
Really?
I'd like to put it everywhere that it's feasible and makes sense because it's a better security, especially even if we have changing staff. Physical keys, physical key cards, even if you never get a key card back, you can just deactivate it. But it's not cheap.
Yeah.
So.
one of the thoughts, the questions, I guess maybe it's a big question of on the front page, what is it, one, two, three, the fourth paragraph down in the fifth one, it talks about establish greater control for maintenance quality and build library district's assets by moving toward facility ownership. When I read that, my impression is we want to own everything that we've got. Like, is that kind of what I thought we were thinking more hybridy, and I just wondered if, something about if when it makes sense. I'm not very legal in how I word things, but when it makes sense is kind of what we're talking about.
Why I use that wording, because to me, moving towards it could be,
It's a broader.
it's a broader term. It's not like we want to make sure we own everything.
Yeah.
And some places currently it makes more sense to do things the way we are doing them right now.
Yeah.
And so, I'm acknowledging that it does build our assets to own property, and we have struggled with quality of our locations from leasing. We've experienced that, so we'd like to try to move past that in as many places as that makes sense. But that's how I feel about it, and I guess that's why I'm asking, do you feel the same way about that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I was like, when it makes sense, it seems like, yes, the district would want to own, but there are definitely some very well accommodated places right now where it wouldn't make sense for us to go try to own property, our own branch property in that area. That's how I think about it, yeah.
Great. Well, I will keep working on it, and I can just keep putting in draft updates. I think I intensively was wanting to try to get us to settle on a final by June. So that's a couple more drafts here, but
Okay.
I'll keep working on it and putting that in front of you to look at.
Okay. So far, I mean, I'm like, yeah. For seeing it for the first time, it's pretty exciting.
It's good to me when the other van, it's not a courier van, it's a people van.
Oh, I'm looking, I put actually, this week, right now, I put out for bids from, the approved vendors through the state through cooperative procurement on a Chrysler Pacifica. So, it seems to have the features that I think would be most fitting for us, and talked to Amy about it. And that's actually when we went on our, facility tour with the staff a couple of weeks ago. We rented a Chrysler Pacifica, and I was like, this may be what we want for that van. So yeah, it's more of a passenger vehicle, but it would have the ability to seat like 7 people. Or it has the stone go seats that pop down, so you needed to put
Transport stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Lori picked the rental van, so
She did. I'm so excited.
turning into a Chrysler commercial.
Yeah. Anything else on those? We can move on to our policy revisions. Let's see. Did anybody have any questions? I like the way you did that, Robin. We just put it to the side of your comments to change, and it made it so simple. Thank you, Patty. That was so simple.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, this is easy, simple, get it done.
I was dreading reading those tags.
So I was too. I was like, oh no, I don't want to read more policies.
Tried to make it as simple as possible. With the explanation, yes, it's great.
Me too. That was great. Are there any questions, comments, suggested changes, or with respect to any of those? Not. Let's see. I would entertain a motion to adopt the policy revisions somebody can list off the number of each one. We don't have to list off the name of everyone.
I make a motion that we adopt the changes and revisions to policy 202, 203, 204, 206, 207, and 208.
It's fine.
What'd you say, Dennis?
Is it because five's perfect?
That's right.
I'll second that.
Or two there. That was awesome. All right, we'll take a roll call vote to, we're voting on, uh, the policy revisions 202, 203, 204, 206, 207, 208, 208. Said my brain isn't working in the words. We're going to adopt them. Thank you. Sharon.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
Dennis.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Tanya. Yes. All right. Now we move on to the director's reports, changes in staff, branch activities, updates.
So, hires from last month. We hired, promoted Israel Gully at NRC to a 40-hour library assistant. Moving from a 30 to a 40-hour, the 10-hour difference actually is going into the current opening, which we interviewed for today, which will be an additional part-time library assistant. So that should be filled next month in this report. We hired a part-time library assistant here in Harrisonville, Madeline Swackhammer. And we hired, finally, after a lot of efforts on some people's parts, to hire our 2 part-time couriers, Marty White and John Smith, and they've both started. And as of, I think today, or Monday maybe, we're back to delivering to all of the branches 5 days a week, which, yes, the normal schedule, which they're very excited and appreciative of. So, we did want to thank the foundation for the gift cards that they provided to each staff member. Those were much appreciated, and Becky got a card from one of the branches, and presumably we'll be getting some emails too, to the foundation email, because people have been asking for that. Gianna, the Garden City manager, we decided this year to use the budgeted money for the ALA conference attendance to offer it to a staff member that could explain kind of why they would want to go and what they would use the information for. And we had several applicants, but we selected Gianna to go, so she'll be attending that conference in summer. I want to say it's in June. I didn't put it in here, but
Into June.
so she'll be attending on our behalf and bringing us back lots of fun information and new things to try. And Sheriff Pemberton and I met with the Archie superintendent about a month ago now, but Michelle Vick had been an attendee at one of our community needs assessments and expressed interest in learning what ways the library could help all of their educators. So we talked with her about what that would look like, and Sherry and Scott Bagel went actually last week to a staff development day, one of the days where they're closed, and they had all the teachers there to present on all of the things that the library can offer them, and they said it was really good and positively received, and it feels like they may be a district that may eventually be interested in some of the student partnership as well. So just a good relationship building meeting. And yeah, there's pictures in there too of the revamped book drop at the Peculiar kiosk location, and pictures from our tour that we took in our lovely Chrysler Pacifica. But we think that's going to be fun. We've got them scheduled quarterly throughout the rest of the year, and are going to try to get any newly hired staff, as well as anybody that wants to attend that, as much space as we have. So to sort of see all of the different branches and get ideas for displaying and programming, and just interact with people that they may not have the opportunity to interact with all that often.
That's a good idea.
The roof seal on the Water Street Annex was completed at the end of March. And so now, facilities can focus on renovation for the second floor, and I believe they plan to do that over the summer. The branches will be very busy this summer, and so they'll be out there and working on that project. We've gotten the go-ahead to move forward with our exterior improvements at Drexel, so that'll be happening here at the end of this month into May. And just to refresh, that's gonna be painting on the front, new signage, upgrading the landscaping, putting like hand railing on the porch area, and making it more inviting on the outside.
Let's start this month.
Yep.
Sweet.
We and I are registered to attend a seminar that Lumber is putting on here next week on Friday the 25th. It's a city officials training seminar, and it goes on over all kinds of different things. It's not for just city officials, but they touch on things like sunshine law and things like that with the meetings. And so we just thought it would be beneficial for us to do that, so we're going to do that.
Are you putting it on?
I will be at that one, no, we do them throughout the state, throughout the metro and Jeff City area, but yeah. So it's a long morning, it's a lot of information, but it's a lot of good information, and you get slides too, so have things you can reference back and look at, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just giving you an update on our facilities and custodial staffing strategy, and I mentioned that a little bit there in the facilities plan. But Ian and I and Pat have been taking a closer look at basically the workload that facility maintenance has and what they're going to have as we move along with our plans. And also kind of what it would look like if we did bring a cleaner in-house to do those different locations, and how can we do that with just one person? Would they have to be full-time? How many would we have to have? And it actually makes the most fiscal sense and the most staff efficiency sense to switch gears and add on another part-time flex facilities specialist. And then right now, Ian is bringing in different cleaning companies to give bids. He's been giving them tours of locations and stuff. And so we're just going to work on getting better quality, hopefully better pricing on our cleaning services. That's the approach now.
Rather than moving towards hiring our own custodials.
Right. Right.
You're talking about hiring someone else to assist.
Yes. So someone is like in the same type of role that Scott Block is in. It's definitely part-time flex. And
Okay.
can go around and do, because especially if we get folks that have different facilities type expertise, we can bring a lot of things in-house like HVAC, plumbing, and not have to call out and wait, so
Yeah.
that's the goal with that. And so it happens to benefit us in multiple ways, so that's what we're gonna.
When are you looking to put it out, I guess?
The job posting.
Yeah, job posting.
I think probably sooner rather than later.
I'm working on just revising the job description just slightly, so as soon as I get that done, then we'll be able to do the posting.
That's it. Trustee reports, anybody have anything there?
The foundation met Monday night, and like Robin mentioned, that the foundation provided a $10 gift card to 95 employees. So that was a pretty hefty little chunk out of, but it's good. We appreciate what they've done. We are in the process of updating our bylaws, Lindsay. We appreciate your expertise, but we went on, like you suggested, and have contracted with a local attorney. And so they have been distributed to our membership, and we'll vote on it at the next meeting. And nothing significant. The members of the board of the foundation board were called trustees. We're trustees. They're going to be directors, just have it different in terms and things like that. And just like we did with our bylaws, how to meet electronically if we had to. and things like that, and make sure that we're covered financially, that our treasurer is covered, protected, and how but we're getting those updates done. We also made a donation to the library in January, and Scott has been buying the award books for summer readings with that money. And we're in the preliminary planning for our biannual, every 2-year book sale. And so right now we're trying to secure a space. We usually have that up in the northern area. And so we'll be securing a space, and we don't have another meeting until July. So hopefully we have that done and then can get committees going.
Because it would be next year, right?
No, it'll be October or November
Oh,
this
so
year.
this year? I feel like
Yes, it's been 2 years.
it's really?
Yes, really.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
anyway, we're not ready to start accepting books yet.
okay.
CCIC meets next week. I just got the email about it today, so
Do you know what day?
I think it's next Thursday, but it's going to be at Truck Beeman instead of upstairs here. So
Yeah, it's the budget meeting, so. This next Thursday, the 16th, 23rd, will be the 2024.
4 p.m.
Okay. Anyone else have any other comment, anything? No? Well, I entertain a motion to recess to executive session.
I make a motion that we adjourn or recess to executive session for legal, 610.021.1, personnel, 610.021.3, and real estate, 610.021.2.
I'm not sure.
2.
I'll second. I'll take a roll call vote to recess to executive for those three said legal, real estate, personnel. Sherry? Yes. Becky? Yes. Dennis?
Yes.
Diana?
Yes.
Tanya? Yes.